The long corridors of Starhaven Station gleamed under soft blue lights, stretching endlessly like rivers of glass. It was late, long past the shift changes, and the halls were empty except for one man, Evan Brooks, the night janitor. He pushed his old mop along the polished floor, his slow movements echoing faintly in the silence. He liked this hour best. No one bumped into him, no one rushed past without a glance. It was just him, the quiet hum of the station, and the faint glow of the stars outside the wide windows. Evan wasn't important here. He knew that. Scientists, officers, diplomats, they all had titles, ranks, and fine uniforms. He had his gray coveralls, his name stitched in white thread, and a mop older than some of the crew. But he didn't mind. He liked things simple. As he worked, he began to hum, softly at first, barely more than a breath. It was an old tune, one his mother used to sing when he was a boy on rainy nights back on Earth. The melody was slow and gentle, like water running over smooth stones. He hummed without thinking, his voice low and warm. The sound drifted through the long metal hallways, blending with the distant hum of the station's engines. Unseen by him, the sound traveled farther than he realized. It slipped through vents, down wires, and through the thin walls that separated one deck from another. Far above him, in the royal guest quarters, a young woman lay awake. Princess Ori of the Lyran Dominion stared at the ceiling of her chamber. Her bed was soft, her room quiet, but sleep would not come. It never did. Her people were born with a deep connection to sound and energy, they called it the harmonic link. But for months, hers had been broken. The healers said she would recover. The doctors said she only needed rest. Yet no matter what they tried, her mind stayed restless, her energy stormed, and her eyes refused to close. The silence was too loud. Every heartbeat echoed like thunder in her chest. Every breath felt heavy. Her attendants had tried everything. Music from her homeworld, soft glowing stones that hummed in perfect rhythm, even the sound of simulated rain. None of it helped. And then that night, something new reached her. A faint sound, almost too quiet to notice at first, drifted through the air vents. A soft, human humming. It was different from the structured tones of her world. It had no perfect rhythm, no measured pattern. It was raw, uneven, and alive. Her pointed ears twitched slightly as she listened. The sound rose and fell like gentle waves. There was something human in it, not mechanical, not forced, but full of feeling. Her chest relaxed. Her mind quieted. She turned slightly on her side and closed her eyes. The humming wrapped around her like a soft blanket, carrying her far from her worries. For the first time in months, her breathing slowed. The melody changed slightly, drifting from one note to another without any clear plan, but that only made it more comforting. It was natural. It was real. Evan, many floors below, had no idea. He was thinking about home, about the smell of wet soil, the sound of his mother's voice, and the way she would hum when she cooked. He always thought it was funny how simple sounds could make a place feel warmer. He hummed louder, the sound filling the hall as he worked his way toward the main airlock. He didn't notice that his voice carried through a maintenance duct that led straight to the royal deck above. Ori's hand relaxed against the blanket. Her long silver hair spilled across the pillow as she drifted deeper into sleep. Her dreams were quiet for once, not filled with flashes of war or the noise of politics. Just soft, peaceful dreams. Her guards, stationed outside her door, noticed the change. The restless movements, the faint murmurs that usually kept them worried, all stopped. One of them whispered to the other, "She's asleep." The other frowned. "Impossible," the healers said. "Listen," the first guard said. Through the vents, they heard it too, the faintest echo of a human voice humming gently. They exchanged confused looks. Where is that coming from? Neither could answer. Down below, Evan finished mopping the corridor and leaned on the handle for a moment. He looked out the nearest viewport, where the stars hung like tiny fires against the dark. He smiled to himself. "Guess that's enough for tonight," he muttered. He didn't know why, but he always liked to finish his shifts with that old song. It made the station feel a little less empty. As he walked toward the supply closet, the melody faded into the distance. The vents grew quiet again. But in the royal suite, Princess Ori slept on, her face peaceful for the first time in a long while. Her breathing was steady, her pulse calm. The healers who checked her later would find her energy balanced, her harmonic field restored, though none could explain why. And when she finally woke at dawn, she felt rested. Oh. She sat up slowly, her mind still holding a faint memory, a warm, low hum like a gentle promise. She looked toward the ceiling, puzzled. "What was that sound?" she whispered. Her attendant stepped forward quickly. Did you hear something, Your Highness? Ori nodded slowly. A voice. Soft and kind. Her attendant tilted her head. I will check the sound systems. Perhaps it was one of the healing frequencies. No, Ori said quietly. It was something else. She looked toward the vents, where a faint echo still lingered in her mind. It wasn't a song from our world. She didn't know who had made it. But she knew one thing for certain, she had not felt such peace in a very long time. And far below, Evan was already starting another shift, humming the same tune as he pushed his mop across the shining floors of Starhaven Station, completely unaware that his quiet song had crossed the stars and reached the heart of a princess. Every night after that first evening, Princess Ori found herself waiting for the sound that carried through the air vents like a soft wind. When the humming began, she would close her eyes, the corners of her lips curling into a small smile. Her heart slowed, her mind quieted, and for the first time in years, sleep came easily. The dreams that followed were gentle, filled with light, not fear. No one knew where the sound came from, and Ori didn't ask. She didn't want to break the magic by trying to explain it. To her, it was simply there, like a voice that belonged to peace itself. Her healers were astonished. Your Highness, one said, scanning her with soft blue light, your harmonic energy has stabilized. But how? Ori only shook her head with a small smile. I'm just sleeping better, she said softly. The healers exchanged glances, whispering among themselves. Nothing they had done had worked for months. Yet suddenly, without any medicine or special tone, she was calm again. Soon her guards noticed too. Every night, at nearly the same time, the humming would start. It was quiet, deep, and steady, rising and falling like the rhythm of breathing. At first, they thought it was a system malfunction, maybe a vibration from the station's engine. But when they checked, the engines were fine. Her head attendant, Mira, began to take notes, writing the times down every night. She even pressed her ear close to the vent one evening. It's coming from below, she murmured. From the maintenance decks. The guards frowned. That's the human sector. Mostly laborers, janitors, engineers. Mira hesitated. A janitor? The guard shrugged. Could be. Meanwhile, far below, Evan Brooks continued his nightly routine. He wasn't doing anything special, or so he thought. Just another shift, another set of endless halls that needed cleaning. He whistled softly as he worked, then shifted back into humming. It helped him focus. The song was one his mother used to hum when the power went out back home. It always reminded him of safety, of light in the dark. He didn't know that his simple habit had become the most important sound in the royal suite above. Upstairs, Ori felt it again, that same gentle vibration like warmth spreading through her chest. She placed her hand over her heart, her fingers trembling slightly. It's starting, she whispered. Her guards and doctors gathered outside her door, listening as the faint sound traveled through the vents. It's not a machine, one muttered. Could it be human? Another asked. Mira nodded slowly. Yes, it feels alive. The next morning, Ori felt refreshed, almost glowing. Her skin shimmered faintly, a sign that her harmonic balance had fully restored. The court physicians gathered in awe. This is remarkable, one said. Whatever this sound is, it's healing you. Ori gave a soft laugh. It isn't a treatment. It's comfort. Her words spread quickly through the station, the alien princess who only slept when a mysterious sound filled the air. By the third night, the guards decided to find out who it was. Mira ordered a small team to follow the sound through the ducts. They crept through maintenance corridors, past humming machinery and glowing pipes, until they reached the lower decks. There, under a dim light, stood a man in gray coveralls, mop in hand, quietly humming as he worked. His voice wasn't trained or polished. It was rough, simple, real. That's him, Mira whispered. The guard stepped forward and Evan blinked in surprise when he saw them. Did I mop somewhere I shouldn't? He asked, straightening up. His mop squeaked softly as he leaned it against the wall. The lead guard shook his head slowly. You're Evan Brooks, correct? Maintenance crew, third shift. Yeah, he said carefully, confused. Why? Mira stepped forward, studying him closely. You've been humming? Evan nodded slowly. Yeah, I do that sometimes. Helps pass the time. I'm not too loud, am I? No, she said quickly. It's just unusual. He scratched the back of his neck, feeling awkward under their stares. Sorry, I can stop if it's bothering someone. Didn't think anyone could hear me down here. Mira hesitated. It's not bothering anyone. She glanced at the guards, then back at him. It's helping someone. A lot. Evan frowned. Helping. Before she could answer, her wrist communicator buzzed. She looked at the message, her eyes widening. "It's her," she murmured. "The princess is asking, who is humming?" Evan blinked again, sure he must have misheard. "Princess." The guard gave him a solemn nod. "The sound you make, it travels through the vents. She says it helps her sleep." He froze, mop still in hand. "You're kidding." Mira shook her head. "She hasn't slept properly in months. But when you hum, she rests." For a long moment, Evan didn't know what to say. He looked down at the mop, then back at them. "I was just doing my job." One of the guards gave a small smile. "It seems you've done much more than that." Evan rubbed his chin thoughtfully. "Well, guess that explains why I never get complaints about working late." Mira smiled faintly for the first time. "Her Highness has requested to meet the one whose voice brings her peace." Evan's eyes widened. "Meet her? Me? I'm just a janitor." The guards exchanged looks. "Just a janitor who helped a princess sleep," one said quietly. He exhaled, shaking his head in disbelief. "Well, that's a new one." Mira nodded toward him. "Finish your shift. Then come with us." Evan looked down at the floor he'd been cleaning, half finished, the water bucket still beside him. He smiled a little. "Guess the floor can wait." That night, when the humming didn't come, Ori lay awake again. The silence felt colder than before. But soon she heard soft footsteps approaching her chamber, and a voice she had only ever heard through metal and air. It was the same hum but closer now. And she knew, even before he entered, that she was about to meet the stranger who had sung her back to peace. The next day, Evan found himself standing in front of a tall set of silver doors, his cap held nervously in both hands. Two royal guards flanked the entrance, their polished armor reflecting the soft lights of the corridor. He didn't belong there. That was the only thought in his mind. He was just a janitor, a man who cleaned floors and fixed the occasional leak, not someone who stood before alien royalty. When the guards motioned him forward, he cleared his throat and whispered to himself, "Well, here goes nothing." The doors slid open with a soft hiss. The royal chamber was wide and glowing, filled with silver silk and drifting blue lights. The air smelled faintly of flowers, strange and sweet. At the far end of the room sat Princess Ori, resting on a cushioned seat by the window. Her skin shimmered faintly like starlight, and her long silver hair flowed over her shoulders. But what caught Evan most were her eyes, soft, kind and weary as if she had seen too much for her age. He stopped at a respectful distance, shifting awkwardly. "Oh, ma'am, I'm just the janitor," he said quickly, clutching his cap tighter. Ori smiled faintly, her voice gentle. "You are the voice that helps me sleep." Evan blinked. "Me?" She nodded slowly. "Your humming reaches my chamber through the ventilation system. For months I could not rest. But your voice," she paused, her expression softening. "It calms the noise inside my mind." Evan's face turned red. I didn't know anyone could hear me. I just hum while I work. Habit, I guess." Her smile grew a little wider, though her eyes still looked tired. "It is no small thing," she said. "Peace is a rare gift. You have given me that." He rubbed the back of his neck, not knowing what to say. Compliments from anyone made him uneasy, from a princess they felt like lightning. "Well, ma'am, if it helps you rest, I can keep humming. Doesn't cost me anything but breath." Ori tilted her head, curiosity glimmering in her gaze. "Humans, you find comfort in sound, don't you?" Evan nodded. "Yeah. Back home, my mom used to hum to me when I couldn't sleep. Guess it stuck." For a moment, Ori said nothing. The gentle hum of the station filled the quiet space between them. Then she spoke softly. "I would like to hear it again. Just once here." He froze. "Here? Now?" She nodded. Evan hesitated, glancing around the room. The guards were watching, Mira stood quietly near the door, and he could feel the weight of every pair of eyes. Still, he took a small breath and began to hum. It started low, quiet, just a simple tune. No words, no rhythm, just the sound of air and heart blending together. At first he felt silly. He was humming in front of a princess after all. But then, something in the room shifted. The lights seemed to soften, the air grew warmer. Ori's eyes closed. Her breathing slowed. The faint lines of exhaustion around her mouth eased as she listened. The energy field that surrounded her shimmered gently, no longer flickering like before. When he finished, she opened her eyes again and whispered, "Thank you." Evan gave an awkward smile. "You're welcome, ma'am. Glad it helps." "It does," she said simply. "Please don't stop. The sound carries farther than you think. Others feel it too." He tilted his head. "Others?" She nodded faintly. Since you began humming, the station feels different. Quieter. Even the walls seem at peace. Evan chuckled softly. That's just because you all needed a lullaby. Ori smiled for the first time in weeks. Perhaps we did. From that night on, things changed aboard Starhaven Station. Evan went back to his usual duties, mopping, sweeping, fixing light panels, but now people noticed him. The engineers stopped to listen when he passed by. Nurses on night shifts paused at their posts, smiling faintly when his tune floated through the air vents. Even the tired soldiers at the docking bay said the nights felt shorter when the janitor's song echoed down the halls. No one ordered him to keep humming, but he did anyway. It felt right. He hummed when he started his shift, when he cleaned the corridors, even when he fixed stubborn pipes that hissed too much steam. The sound filled the station's quiet corners like sunlight sneaking through curtains. And every night, in her royal suite, Ori lay down and waited for that soft, familiar hum. When it came, her breathing steadied. Her dreams became peaceful, memories of laughter, of open skies, of home. One evening she asked Mira, "Does he know what he's doing?" Mira smiled. "I think he's just being himself, Your Highness." Ori turned her head toward the vent and whispered, "Then may he never stop being himself." Word of the human janitor spread slowly through the diplomatic decks. Visitors from other species would pause to listen, curious about the sound that seemed to heal tension and soothe anger. Some said it was a form of human magic. Others claimed it was just coincidence. But Ori knew better. She believed it wasn't magic, it was heart. And Evan, for his part, never asked for recognition. He didn't even realize how far his quiet voice carried. He only knew that the halls felt less lonely now, and that sometimes when he finished a shift, he could almost feel a calm presence in the air, as if someone out there was smiling because of his song. As he walked the long corridors with his mop and bucket, humming softly, the lights seemed to glow a little warmer, the air felt a little lighter, and the endless stars outside the window seemed to twinkle in rhythm with his tune. Starhaven Station, once a cold place of duty and distance, had found something new. A small human sound that reminded everyone, alien or not, what peace truly felt like. And it all started with a janitor who just liked to hum. The storm came without warning. One moment, Starhaven Station floated in its usual quiet orbit, surrounded by the steady glow of distant suns. The next, the light outside shifted, a deep orange wave that rolled through the void like fire through water. "Solar flare detected," the loudspeakers shouted. "All decks, brace for electromagnetic surge." Alarms rang. Lights flickered. Power systems groaned under the sudden surge of radiation. Evan Brooks was mopping Deck 9 when the floor shook under his boots. The bucket rattled, spilling water across the tiles. He dropped the mop and grabbed the wall rail as the lights dimmed to red. "What in the—" he started, but the sound of the alarm drowned him out. Far above him, chaos rippled through the royal deck. In Princess Ori's chamber, the protective shields around her bed flickered and sputtered. The energy that kept her body in balance began to waver. Her eyes shot open, glowing silver with distress. She gasped, clutching her chest. Her harmonic field, the delicate resonance that kept her alive in human-built environments, was collapsing. Her attendants rushed to her side. "Your Highness, stay calm," Mira shouted. "Medical systems are offline. The storm's interfering with the power grid." Ori tried to speak, but her breath came in short, shallow gasps. "I can't hold." The station shuddered again, metal groaning under the wave of solar radiation. Evan heard it all through the distant echo of the intercom system. The alarms, the running footsteps, the shouts. He had been trained for fire drills and pressure breaches, but this was different. This was fear. He tapped his communicator. Static. No response. He glanced toward the maintenance console, where an emergency broadcast channel flickered faintly. He didn't know what else to do, but he could hear the tension in every voice that came through the speakers. People were panicking. He took a deep breath. And then he began to hum. At first it was quiet, almost drowned by the sirens. But as the melody continued, his voice found strength. It slipped through the emergency channels, bouncing from one deck to another, carried by the very systems meant to deliver warnings. The tone was low and steady, the same tune he'd hummed every night while cleaning. It didn't sound like courage or command. It sounded like home. Crew members froze mid-panic, turning toward the intercoms. The steady hum broke through the chaos like sunlight through clouds. On the bridge, the captain glanced up. "Who's broadcasting that?" No one answered. But the noise of shouting began to fade. People took deeper breaths. Movement slowed. Engineers' hands steadied as they worked on the control panels. On the medical deck, the alarms still blared, but doctors found focus again. Their minds cleared enough to work. And far above in the royal suite, Ori heard it too. Through the storm of static and failing lights, that same warm sound reached her, human, simple, steady. Her trembling eased. The panic that had clawed at her chest melted away. Her pulse slowed and her glowing energy field began to stabilize, its rhythm syncing with the melody that filled the air. Her eyes fluttered closed. "Evan," she whispered. Mira looked up in shock. "The janitor?" Ori nodded weakly, clutching the edge of her blanket. "He's singing again." The storm raged outside, battering the station's shields, but inside the chaos began to soften. One by one, lights flickered back to life. The hum of the engines steadied. Systems rebooted. Power rerouted itself through emergency cores. On the engineering deck, one of the technicians laughed in disbelief. "Whoever's doing that, keep it up. The harmonic stabilizers are syncing to his voice." Evan didn't know any of that. He only knew he couldn't stop. His voice wavered once, caught between fear and determination, but he kept going, soft, steady, human. He remembered what his mother used to say when he was small and afraid of thunder. "When the sky yells, you hum back at it. Remind it you're still here." So that's what he did. He hummed at the storm. Minutes passed, though they felt like hours. Slowly the lights brightened to normal. The alarms quieted. A final tremor rolled through the station, and then silence. Evan lowered the intercom mic, his heart pounding. The air smelled faintly of burned metal, but the walls were still there. The hum of the station's engines was back, steady and strong. He slumped against the wall, exhaling hard. "Guess that worked," he muttered. Up in her suite, Ori opened her eyes. Her breathing was calm again. Her skin glowed softly, not from strain but from peace. Mira stared at her in disbelief. "Your Highness, your energy field is completely stable." Ori smiled faintly. "Because he sang." The guards in the room didn't understand, but Mira did. She glanced at the nearest intercom speaker, still humming faintly from residual feedback. "His song reached everyone," Mira whispered. Throughout the station, people emerged from their shelters. Engineers checked consoles, medics tended to the injured, and even the gruff old captain stood still for a long moment, listening to the fading echo of that human voice. Later, reports would call it an act of quick thinking by maintenance personnel. Some would say it was luck. Others would claim it was coincidence, that the systems restored themselves at the same time he hummed. But those who had been there, those who felt it, knew better. They knew that in the middle of a deadly solar storm, when fear had nearly broken them, a single voice had reminded them how to breathe. Evan didn't want praise. He didn't even mention what he'd done. When the storm passed, he just went back to his mop and bucket, whistling quietly under his breath. But that night, when he walked down the corridor, he noticed something new. Crew members smiled at him as he passed. The guards gave him nods of respect. And when he reached the royal deck, he saw Mira waiting by the door. "She wants to see you," she said softly. He blinked. "She okay?" Mira smiled. "Thanks to you." He hesitated, scratching his neck. "All I did was hum." "Yes," she said. And somehow that was enough. Later, when he entered the princess's chamber, she looked up at him with bright, grateful eyes. "The storm is over," she said softly. Evan smiled, a little shy. "Told you humming helps." Ori laughed quietly, the sound like music itself. "You didn't just calm me this time. You calmed everyone." Outside, the storm had faded, the stars returning to their quiet watch. Inside, the air was calm again, filled with something stronger than power, peace. A human janitor's simple song had steadied the heart of an alien princess, the minds of a frightened crew, and the pulse of an entire station. And that night, Starhaven slept, to the memory of a voice that had turned fear into harmony. The summit had finally ended. For 3 long days, Starhaven Station had been filled with visiting leaders, advisors, and guards from every corner of the Alliance. They had come to speak of unity and rebuilding after the great solar storm, and to honor those who had kept the station calm when panic might have destroyed it. But Evan Brooks didn't go to the ceremony. He stayed in the lower decks, packing his small bag with quiet care. His work uniform, his tools, and his old mop leaned against the wall, ready for the next janitor who would take his place. He didn't like goodbyes, and he didn't want a medal or attention. He had never been one for spotlights. He preferred the hum of the lights, the steady sound of the mop gliding across the floor, and the faint echo of his own quiet tune. So he zipped up his bag, gave the room one last look, and started down the corridor. As he walked, the familiar sound of the station surrounded him. The faint buzz of energy lines, the low hum of the engines, the soft voices of people moving about their day. Everything was calm again. It felt right. He reached the docking bay where a small shuttle waited. Just a few more steps and he would be gone, back to the transport lanes, back to being just another worker on another ship. But before he could step inside, a voice called from behind him. "Evan." He turned. Princess Ori stood at the far end of the corridor. Her silver robes shimmered under the soft lights, and her pale hair fell gently around her shoulders. She looked different now, no longer tired or weak but calm and strong, her silver eyes bright with warmth. For a moment, Evan didn't know what to say. He removed his cap, awkward as always. "Your Highness," he said softly. "Didn't expect to see you down here." She smiled faintly. "I heard you were leaving." He nodded. "My job's done. Station's quiet again. Time for me to move on." Her smile faded slightly. "You saved us, Evan. You saved me. You shouldn't have to leave quietly." He shrugged, trying to look casual. "I didn't save anyone. I just hummed a little. You all did the hard part." She shook her head gently. "Maybe. But it was your song that gave us strength when we had none." Evan rubbed the back of his neck, unsure what to say. He had never known how to take compliments. "Guess I just got lucky," he said. Ori took a step closer, then reached into the folds of her robe. When she opened her hand, something small gleamed in her palm. It was a pendant, simple, silver, shaped like a musical note. Tiny etchings along its edge caught the light, forming patterns that shimmered like stars. "Take this," she said softly. Evan blinked. "What is it?" "It's a harmonic charm," she said. "It carries the energy of peace, the same kind your voice gave me. My people believe gifts like this connect two souls across distance. When you hum, it will glow faintly. A reminder that your song still reaches the stars." He stared at it, unsure if he should take something so beautiful. "I can't." "You can," she interrupted gently. "It's not payment. It's thanks." For a long moment, neither spoke. The hum of the engines filled the silence between them. Finally, Evan nodded and took the pendant carefully, his rough hands closing around the cool metal. "Thank you, Princess," he said quietly. Ori smiled again, that small, honest smile that seemed to carry light with it. "Thank you, Evan, for reminding me what calm sounds like." He slipped the pendant into his pocket and lifted his bag. "You'll be all right now," he said. "I will," she replied. "As long as I remember the sound of your humming." He chuckled softly. "Guess I'll have to keep practicing then." When he turned to go, she called after him one last time. "Good night, Evan." He paused in the doorway, then looked back. "Good night, Princess." As the shuttle doors closed, the engines began to hum. The same calm sound he had always loved filled the air, and without thinking, he began to hum along with it. The melody was soft, almost lost beneath the rumble of the engines, but it carried through the air vents, through the docking bay, through the long silver halls of Starhaven Station. Crew members paused in their work, smiling faintly as the sound reached them. It was a familiar tune, the same one that had steadied them during the storm, the same one that made the air feel warm and safe. In her royal chamber, Ori stood by the window watching the shuttle drift into the stars. The pendant she had given him glowed faintly in her hand, answering a distant hum only she could truly hear. She closed her eyes, letting the sound wash over her. Once again she felt calm. Once again she could breathe. The stars outside shimmered like soft notes in a song. His song, and for the first time since the storm she felt at peace. Far away aboard the small shuttle, Evan leaned back in his seat. The pendant around his neck glowed faintly, pulsing with each breath he took. He smiled, eyes half closed. He didn't know where he would go next. Maybe another station. Maybe another quiet job in another forgotten corner of the galaxy. But wherever he went, he knew he would keep humming. Because somewhere out there, across the stars, through the silence of space, someone might need to hear it. And that was enough. That night, the station slept soundly once more. A princess dreamed of peace. A janitor drifted through starlight. And a single song carried softly through the void, warm, simple, and full of hope.